What's good, people? Agent Jules reporting for duty. In the 1959 Disney movie Sleeping Beauty, the villainess of the story, Maleficent, decided that because she was snubbed from being invited to a birthday party, showed up unannounced, and cursed the Princess Aurora purely out of spite. In short, she is a villain who exacts her will purely on instinct and whim. There is very little reason for there to be a reason for her. There are some villains who would strive to have this level of don't give a fudge, if you will, including my OC Velicia from my cartoon SCHNEEEVIL. However, unlike the other villainesses that I have dissected in this series, Maleficent is a villainess that Velicia not just looks up to, but actually envies. And it's a very uncomfortable envy. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and buckle ourselves into our favorite fable. Let's throw shade at 3 grandma-looking fairies. Let's curse a child just 'cause. While we're at it, let's lock up a prince and smash the like button. And let's talk about the phenomenon known as Maleficent. So, of course, the first thing we do on this little series is talk about the speed paint. And, of course, this is yet another entry in the Velicia Cosplays series. And so we have my OC Velicia Donut Steel from SCHNEEEVIL dressed up as Maleficent. And kind of the funny thing about making this picture is I noticed that the color schemes between the two characters are kind of similar, but flipped. Because if you really look at Maleficent's color scheme, you'll see that she has like pale purple skin in this jet black robe, whereas Velicia's color scheme is opposite. She has black skin, which of course is not jet black, but like afro black, which is black skin in a purple scheme. It's just, black looks really good with purple. It's a really nice match, apparently. So I presume at this point everyone knows the story of Sleeping Beauty. You got this beautiful princess with the 3 fairies that show up and give her gifts of beauty and dancing and singing and all that nonsense. And Maleficent just shows up out of nowhere and says, "Hey, I noticed you guys didn't invite me." Well, I'm not sour or spited or anyway. Oh, by the way, the child is gonna fall into a deep slumber on her 16th birthday. Deuces, and she flies off. And of course, the rest of the movie goes here. It's actually kind of funny how little it takes for her to just curse a child out of nowhere. You know, she's not shown in this movie to be wronged or somehow, you know, have any ulterior motives to like take over the kingdom or anything like that. She just shows up and screws around with the princess, and that's all that's all she really needs, apparently. And so, looking at Maleficent compared to the other villainesses I have done in this series, I am seeing that she is probably the singularly most cruel villainess I have done so far in said series, because she runs, as I've said many times in this video, out of sheer spite. You know, she doesn't need anything beyond the joy of being evil. There's even that scene where she locks up the prince, and she could easily have, you know, killed the prince right then and there and made sure that Sleeping Beauty never wakes up. Aurora, of course, is her name, but you get the point. But instead, she says, "No, in fact, I'm going to release you in 100 years' time, so you'll be an old man." And she does that sheerly to see suffering. Now, of course, in the real world, that would make her an absolute monstrous psychopath. And of course, in this story, that also makes her an absolute monstrous psychopath. But because it's done in that, you know, cutesy Disney style, we kind of laugh at it and go, "Oh, look at Maleficent. She gives no fudges. She just does her thing and whatnot." Now, having said that, what could I possibly have any use for this personality type in Velicia? Because as those of you who know, who watch this series, the whole point of dressing up Velicia as villainesses, besides the fact that it's fun to dress her up and on occasions you get to see her scantily clad, which is part of the appeal. But no, it's part of it is like, what can I glean from these characters? What can I use in all of these various characters and, you know, steal from it and put it into Velicia? The thing is, there's not really anything here for Maleficent that I can steal. And the reason why is because Maleficent doesn't care enough in Sleeping Beauty beyond just having that sheer spite, and Velicia is full of caring about stuff. That's her whole MO. She's very emotionally invested in portraying herself as ultimate evil. And I mentioned at the beginning of this video that her desire to be like certain villainesses would be very great, hypothetically, because they don't technically exist in the same universe. But in the case of Maleficent, well, I shouldn't say she wouldn't want to be Maleficent, but she wants to be her so bad that it would make her angry. Because there is something so natural about Maleficent's IDGAF attitude that digs at Velicia's raw nerves more than a character who is, hyper competent and hyper confident, such as, for example, Wuya. The best way I can describe it would have to be the fable of the sour grapes. You've probably heard this phrase, sour grapes, before. And I'm gonna kind of paraphrase the fable, but that's the point of fables. You always put your own spin on it. But the point is that long ago, the fox would eat the apples on the low-hanging bush. And he enjoyed the apples, but he would see the giraffe, and the giraffe with his long neck got to eat the grapes at the top of the tall grape tree. And the fox looked upon the giraffe and saw that he could eat the grapes, and he could also eat the apples because he could bend his head down, but the fox could only eat the apples. And so in his envy and jealousy, he decided, well, you know what? Well, maybe grapes aren't so bad. Grapes are sour. I don't like sour grapes. And so the fox, in his envy and jealousy, hoarded the apples and ate the apples and poo-pooed on any creature like the giraffe and probably the bird, because the bird can fly, and the monkey who could climb the tree, all of them enjoying these grapes that the fox could not reach, and thus sour grapes. That's the fable. It's the idea of sour grapes, and the concept is that the sour grapes represents something that a character can never, they perceive they can never achieve it, and because they can never have it, they psychologically gaslight themselves into believing that the thing they can never have, well, there's no point in having it because it's bad anyway. I wouldn't want that. Another classic example of sour grapes would be nerds envying the jocks, which is a very old trope, but like the idea would be that the nerds would look down upon the jocks as like, oh, there's just simpleton meatheads. I don't want to work out because I would spend all my time lifting weights and looking at myself in the mirror instead of expanding my intellect. And of course, the idea would be is that the nerd secretly envies the big, strong jock because he has a big body and he gets all the girls, right? So that's another example of sour grapes. So the long and short of it is Maleficent kind of represents sour grapes to Velicia, because Velicia does not see herself able to have that give no F's attitude that Maleficent portrays. And so because of that, it digs at her soul. And so now that I'm thinking about it, it may behoove me to actually add an additional character in my cartoon SCHNEEEVIL that is someone like Maleficent, who is a character who is also probably an accomplished supreme dark sorceress, but does so with such carefree flair, can do things out of sheer spite, and just enjoys the natural state of being evil so much that it bothers Velicia, and to the point where this other hypothetical sorceress is so cool that she has the strong envy, but she thinks like, oh, like she doesn't know how to be evil. You can't just do things out of nowhere. You have to have a reason, and so she'll get herself worked up and have another point of obsession. Look at me bringing up obsession, which is a previous video that you can watch on the Velicia Cosplay series. Basically, it would be inappropriate for Velicia to have any character traits of Maleficent. I mean, beyond being obviously an evil magical user who's trying to, do bad things upon the people. I mean, that's kind of the MO here, but I think for the first time in this series, Maleficent is not a character that I can get anything from Velicia, but she is a character who can represent something that Velicia's character can bounce off of, work as a foil or a nemesis or something like that. So even when there's no relation to Velicia, there's still something I can use for the sake of developing Velicia. So I guess that's a good thing. Anyway, I think I'll go ahead and wrap it up there for today, so you people know what to do. If you like what you see and you want to see more, go ahead and tickle those sacred buttons if you want to see what comes next. Definitely leave a comment down below and share the video, because it's good for you, and it's good for me, it's good for the channel, it's good for your teeth, and also because I want to hear what you guys have to say, and I want to share the message far and wide. Of course, as a reminder to hit up the Patreon and subscribe star if you want to check out the exclusive video, and of course the long paint of all the videos that I do, so if you're interested in seeing the long, arduous process, you can check that out as well. And of course, if you wish to stalk me elsewhere on the interbus, you can go ahead and hit up my links on the screen, as always. And of course, as always, I want to emphasize minds.com, because it is one of the great alternative social media websites that are emerging in our interbutts. And so, with all that said, I thank you for spending this time with me. I do hope you stick around, and until next time, deuces.